Larry, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing extremely well. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
You are quite welcome. I'm excited to talk to you. We met through someone else I've actually gotten on this podcast in the past. And I love what you're doing. I love what you've created with your company. And I think everything you're doing can bring a big benefit to the listener. So I'm excited to dive into that. But first and foremost, who are you?
Who am I? Isn't that the big question?
It is
Who
the big
are we?
question.
My name is Larry Greene. I'm a compulsive entrepreneur. I'm a multitasker. I have a health and fitness and longevity brand called Genesis. My tagline is live in your prime. And that really sets the tone for what we're trying to accomplish for people. We all know that time when we felt like we lived in our prime, whether it was high school football or the prom queen or major success of whatever magnitude is how we define our prime. And then there's qualitative components that go along with that. How do you feel? What is your energy? What is your physical being like? What is your lifestyle all about? How are you managing your day to stay in that high level of flow of being in your prime? And so we work with clients of all types. My primary focus is executives, business owners, and corporations, although I work with individuals of any kind. And the reason I like that corporate client is because they're especially burdened by lifestyle factors, stressors, not able to eat well often, traveling, attached to their technology, different time zones. And so that really disrupts their ability to take care of themselves and find time for mind, body, spirit. And so what we do is we connect the dots. We go, like, here's where you are today. Here's this vision of you living in your prime. And we analyze and find the strategies that we can implement to help them come back to that state of optimal health and vitality. We do it a lot through coaching. I have a team of people that work with me that are experts in their own field. I have a brick and mortar facility in Thousand Oaks, California, where we do, in-person training and coaching and mobility work. But with the recent shift of most people to learning to work virtually, it makes life a lot easier and more convenient for people to just jump on and do it through there. In a nutshell, that's what I do.
Awesome. Kind of first question that comes to mind as you talk about this is, and then I know this is a very loaded question, what happens between those high school years and our adult years that we are no longer living in our prime?
That is a loaded question. And I think I've alluded to some of the factors. Really, to me, there's a handful of key indicators that move the needle in one direction or the other. My top three are sleep quality, mindset, and an eating strategy. And we can dive into those or any of the above as I go through them. Posture is a biggie. Mobility and chronic pain is a biggie. The chronic stress is a biggie. You take all these factors and you put them on top of each other, and what happens metabolically, emotionally, physically, biochemically, our body starts to deviate from that prime state of functioning. If you take the analogy of a car, right? We wash it, we wax it, we take it for tune-ups, we inflate the tires, we check all the fluids, we maintain our car so that it looks good and it runs good, right? We don't do that for our own body. We take it for granted. We trash it. By not doing these disciplines of sleep and good quality food and positive mindset and movement. And so there's that delta, between the shiny car and the jalopy.
I love that you use that car analogy, because I use that with a lot of people as well for that same reason. It's like we do put a ton of money into our cars in order to make sure they run well, but then hesitate when it comes to, oh, I need to pay how much to get this lab work done or to get, this stuff done. And it's pretty fascinating when you really start thinking about like this car I'm going to have for maybe 15 years, my body I'm going to have for hopefully 100
or more.
or more.
What happens is, the good and the bad is the human body adapts, right? Oh, I can get fine with 4.5 hours sleep every night. Oh, I only eat one meal a day. I only have time for fast food. The body adapts and does what it can to get you through the day. And what happens is people forget what that higher level of energy and vitality feels like. And they've figured that the new norm is the new norm. Oh, I'm just getting older. This is what's supposed to happen. You'd be surprised how many people think, oh, as we get older, we just get diabetes. That just happens. So they've fallen into that paradigm of settling. And my job is to challenge that and ask them to look at what is the potential, not only for themselves, but for their family, for their business, for their children, to be elevated by this higher vibration.
That's super fascinating to me, because I've never been in the mindset of just like, this thing is inevitable for me. What is it that kind of causes people to think that, as far as like, I'm like just gonna get diabetes, like it's just a fact of life? What is it that, is it because of what their parents had? Is it because of what physicians and the mass marketing tells us?
I think there's two answers. I think that there is, every generation has a different dynamic. If you look at technology 20 years ago, if you look at medicine 20 years ago, the world has changed dramatically. And I think what's happening generally in society is the mindset is lagging in that shift. And yes, they look at their parents and their grandparents. What is it? 40 is the new 60. People haven't caught up to that and gotten excited about what the potential is moving forward with medicine and technology and science and genetics. We understand so much more about the human body and the human biome today than we did 5 years ago. And that's what fascinates me. That's what inspires me. That's what I study and research and learn and share with people is you could do and be whatever you want. It's available to you, and they've settled. And I think another part of it is, and it's not to name drop, but why is Amazon so amazingly successful? They've made it so convenient. Mm-hmm. We have become a convenience mentality, a convenience society. And then the COVID situation made it even more so, where I'm just going to sit home on the couch and I'm going to have people send me stuff, right? And so we become sedentary and we're not getting sunshine. We're not moving. And it's easier to order fast food or delivery food than it is to make your own food, to go to a farmer's market, to go to a specialty grocery store, to prep your food. So convenience / lazy.
Okay. Definitely makes sense to me. Seeing the direction the majority of people are going in this world.
Right. And I think you and I are on that same ship. We want to change it. We want to turn that direction. We have the opportunity to have enormous longevity and vitality. 120, 130 years old, no problem. Our bodies and our brains can do that. It's about the mindset and then fueling and maintaining the body as you do your car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's amazing to me. I've had this conversation with people before that, like, even if you want to eat out, like you can make good choices for the most part. Like, and it's just fascinating to me, like during COVID and even nowadays, it's like you see the fast food burger joint lines like wrapping around buildings forever. And then you look at the more like healthier option restaurants, fast food places, and it's like maybe a couple people there. And it's just fascinating with everything we know now, the direction people are still going.
Yes. So it's our job to educate and inspire people, right? I took the title, I am the CEO of my business, but I took the title CIO as Chief Inspiration Officer. And when people see that in my email signature or a business card, I want them to know I am here to inspire people. I'll meet you wherever you want to be. I personally am way out there. I'm in the weeds. I'm very extreme in how I manage my environment, how I address these pillars of health. But there's a lot of room in the middle, to pull people, let's say, from a 3 to a 7. Mm-hmm. Right? And it doesn't mean you can't go out. It doesn't mean you can't have a drink. It doesn't mean you can't eat junk now and then. It doesn't mean you can't stay up all night now and then. It just means that everything's cumulative. And every single thing that you do to and for your body is logged in the history. And for me, I spend time filling my bucket rather than having it drain.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Let's dive into some of the things you mentioned before as far as like how we live in our prime. So dive into eating strategies first. What sort of things are we talking about here?
Cool. So my key components in an eating strategy are this. Number one, hydration. Great timing. I just saw you drink some water. You must have felt me.
I read your mind.
You knew it. Yes. Hydration's huge, and we can spend hours talking about that. The one thing is you're dehydrated before you know it. And dehydration has many negative effects on how your body functions. Number two for me is meal timing. And I know that gets a little confusing because intermittent fasting is a big thing right now. And I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a personal choice. I think it's goal driven, depending on what you want to accomplish, right? Gaining muscle, losing weight, having more energy, dealing with some illness, whatever it is, you have to be very strategic in the strategy that you make. For me, eating 3 square meals a day, snacking a little bit, puts logs on the fire more often. I love analogies, right? We all know about sitting around a campfire and you've got this nice big flame. And there's always that one person who's tinkering with the fire all the time. They stick one more log in, then they move it around and then they stick another log in. And if you think about the fire as the fire in your belly, your metabolism, for me, if you put logs on the fire and then you walk away for 12 hours and you come back, it's smoldering, right? It's hard to maintain that fire. I do believe in a certain fasting, 12 to 14 hours at nighttime, primarily to improve your sleep quality, because you want your body working on cleaning house while you sleep rather than digesting food. During the day, I like to provide consistent fuel. In my opinion, it helps regulate blood sugar, it helps stabilize your energy levels, and it allows the fire flame to run higher. So meal timing becomes an important issue. That's number 2. Number 3, food combining, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, understanding what they are, understanding how they function for your body, and finding the right balance of those 3 throughout your day. Number 4, and maybe not in this order, is food quality, right? The industrial food complex has exchanged quality for quantity. And unfortunately, most of the things that you get in a box or a bag or a can have a lot of crap in them that your body will respond to in a negative way. Our ag industry, cows and all animal production, I feel there's a lot of cruelty out there. It's a very substantial burden on our planet. I personally am a vegan. I have no problem with people eating animal proteins. I just want it to be a conscientious decision as far as the quality and where they get their foods from. The quality of what you eat has a huge effect on the bacteria in your gut biome, which is really the brain, if you will. The gut's been called the second brain. I'm sure you know that, you've heard that.
Yep.
A lot happens from that bacteria in your gut. And if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. And I feel that that's where a lot of this increase in disease, cancer, also brain diseases have come from the food chain and the chemicals and toxins that we put in our body on a daily basis. So food quality becomes super, super important. And then quantity obviously is a factor. Goal-based. And so those are the 5 key components that I look at in developing a nutrition strategy. And you've got to make it realistic and sustainable for your client. If I have clients who travel a lot, if they have certain limitations to not be able to take those 5 components and optimize them, then we build strategies around it to help them get as close to that as they can.
I think that last part you said is not say the most important, but a really forgotten part, because I think so many times like people do their own research and they look for all these things and they're like, this is what I should do, but then they can't figure out how to fit it into their lifestyle, or it's really stressful for them. And so they just go back to doing what they were doing. And like, yeah, it's just one of those things. And any habit we create in life, if it's not going, or anything we try to create in life, if it's not going to work into our lifestyle, like it's not going to work for us.
Right. We call this lifestyle performance coaching. How can you perform optimally in life based on where you are? And there's that gray zone where you get what you could get, and you work around the items that are not sustainable and find another strategy that helps support that component of what they're trying to accomplish.
What do you, when talking nutrition, just because I know so many people travel, whether it's for jobs or competitions or races, how do you help people like stay on track as far as finding those quality foods and eating those quality foods while they're on the road?
That's definitely a challenge. I have worked with rock stars who travel for 6 months out of the year, executives, producers, other types of people that are constantly on the road. And what I do, if they're a client of mine, I work with their team and I find out where they're going to be, where they're staying. I research the hotels, I research the restaurants around them, I research the gyms around them, and I stay ahead of them. And I will send them menus. I will tell them what to order. I will find private chefs in the area. It depends on the level, that you're going after. These are people that are comfortable financially and are willing to invest in that. For someone who's just kind of doing their own thing, same deal. Look ahead, do the research. Is there a Whole Foods nearby? Is there a health food store? How many snacks can I bring with me? Airport food, airplane food is not good. It's not. Sorry. I like to load up as much as I can before I hit the road. I like to have as much food around me as possible. When I'm gone for the day, I know where my refrigerators are. I know where I have stockpiles of food. And if I don't have it, then I'm going to bring it with me in an ice chest. So it's really about planning ahead. Air travel obviously creates a different situation. But you can definitely minimize it. You know, I put down a protein shake on the way down to the airport. I mean, I'm finishing it like the minute before you go through the line where you can't have any liquids, because I just want that. I want that in there. So finding good quality water, finding good quality food, it's about just planning ahead. And this is where we're stuck. We're in that hamster wheel just spinning, and we're just sprinting in that hamster wheel from gig to gig, from Zoom to Zoom, from call to call, from meeting to meeting, from obligation to obligation. And it's really about, this is kind of a shift, changing gears a little bit on you. I'm obsessed with my calendar. I calendar everything. I make appointments with myself. I plan ahead based on what I'm going to be doing, to have food available, to rest. When can I take a walk? When can I meditate? When can I do some journaling? When can I make some me time? When I can make family time? And I actually plug it into my calendar. And then the key is, because it's super easy just to delete it, or either erase it or delete it, you make a deal with yourself. I can move it, but I can't delete it. So if I was going to take a walk on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I blew through Monday and it didn't happen, you slide it to Tuesday and you get it in, and you're staring at it. It's a reminder. It's discipline. It's creating a structure and finding boundaries and having discipline. Now, I control my own environment. I don't have young kids. I don't have people that I need to care for. I work with a lot of people that have families. They have young children. They have this, they have that. There's no perfect solution there. But if we can move you again from a 3 to a 7 on your own personal lifestyle performance, then everybody gets elevated.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I'm the same way. People laugh at me when they look at my calendar, like, you have so much stuff on your calendar, and like, it's 3 months out. I'm like, because my training is on there every single, like, I have my training blocked. I have my coaching calls blocked with my own coaches. And it's like, it's just that important stuff that's necessary for me to do, and I make time for it. So I think that's awesome.
Thanks.
You mentioned as far as like eating food timing, stopping soon enough before we go to sleep does help with our sleep quality. So let's dive into sleep quality. Why is quality so important or I wouldn't say it's more important than quantity, but if we get 8 hours of crappy sleep, it's not going to matter. So why is sleep quality so important? But also, how do we improve our sleep quality?
Now you just laid it right on the table. I love this topic as well. Thank you for presenting that. Quality is better than quantity in everything in life, right? So we want to find quality. Here's what the deal is. We have sleep cycles. We have REM sleep, we have deep sleep, we have light sleep, we have awake. The deep and REM is where all the magic happens. Your brain basically goes through the dishwashing cycle. We're cleansing toxins, right? We have metabolic waste every day. There's a lot of cleanup that needs to happen at the end of our day. So if you think about sweeping the floor at the end of the shift, so the next morning the floor is clean, right? And clean to me means the brain, which controls through the nervous system everything that we do, the hundreds and hundreds of functions that exist without our knowledge inside our body. You now have rebooted your brain so that it can operate more optimally, right? We also repair, recover, and restore when we sleep. As an athlete, you understand what that's all about, right? You can train until you're blue in the face, and if you don't give yourself time to recover, you never grow. You never get stronger. You never get bigger. You never get more powerful, because we need that time. Memory, the things that happen become seated in the brain more strongly through those good sleep quality, sleep cycles. We all know it. We had a bad night. Maybe the kid was crying. Maybe we drank too much. Maybe we ran a marathon and our body's exhausted and we just whatever. And you know what it feels like when you wake up and you feel like crap, right? And we also know what it feels like when you wake up and you just bounce out of bed and you're like, oh my gosh, I am ready to go. That's the qualitative component of that. I push hard every day. Every day is a gift, and I want to share, and I want to give, and I want to connect with people. I want to support my family, my clients, my friends. I want to go on a hike. I don't want to be limited in anything that I want to do in a day because I feel like crap, right? So there's two things. One, I believe in wearables. I believe that there's so much good technology out there for you to understand your sleep quality. And maybe you snore. Maybe your partner who you sleep in the same bed with snores or grinds or kicks you in the shin 5 times during the night. These disrupt that sleep cycle, right? All of those variables, when you're in that bed, those things affect your sleep cycles. And it's like if you're trying to take a nap and every minute somebody keeps tapping on you to wake you up. That's what goes on, but you don't really realize it because you're in a sleep mode. So again, I got a small handful of things that I suggest to people as strategies to optimize their sleep quality. And most of it revolves around the notion of circadian rhythm, which I'm guessing you know at least a little bit about. And the way I describe that is when we were cavemen, when it was nighttime, we slept. When it was daytime, we hunted, we moved about, and we ate. And for thousands of years, this is the genetic imprint that we had. If you think even 50 years ago, no computers, no cell phone, no Wi-Fi, no this, no that, we are being bombarded with so much energy that is disruptive to our human body. We can be on a computer with lights on at midnight, right? Our brain, through our eyes are these massive sensors. By the way, if you're tired and you got 5 minutes, lay on the floor, put your feet up on the wall, and close your eyes. Your eyes take an enormous amount of your energetic bandwidth. We're constantly seeing things and analyzing. We're still in our DNA taught to, there may be a bear, there may be someone chasing me. So there's a lot of bandwidth of energy that goes on when our eyes are open. And just also changing the circulation, people don't realize what it takes to pump blood from your foot into your heart, right? So this is my cute little tip. It's like, you're hammered and you've got to get a reboot, take 5 minutes, lay on the ground, feet up in the air on the wall, close your eyes, and listen to your breath. It's really transformative.
Awesome. I love that.
It's a great little tip. I digress. So there's kind of this choreography of sleep quality, right? And it does require you to control your environment to some extent. An hour or so before bedtime, stop eating. Maybe more, hour and a half. No more eating. Let your body start digesting its food before you go to sleep. Start dimming your lights. Bright lights, tell your body it's daytime. Get off the technology. Get off your phone, get off your computer, get off your tablet. That light going into your eyes is stimulating. Some people say, oh, I put the TV on, it helps me fall asleep. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but at a qualitative level, it is not beneficial. So this really that warm up, the bedroom environment, no technology, no television, get it as dark as humanly possible. The room should be cool. Your body needs to cool down in temperature. Have a good quality bed. You spend more time on that than anything else. A good bed makes a difference, right? Um, so those are kind of the things that I look at, you know, allowing yourself to wind down, make sure the bedroom environment is set up properly. If you've had alcohol, if you had caffeine too late in the day, if you went for a jog at 9 o'clock at night, all of those things are going to limit or slow down the ability for your body to spool down and calm down. So really have an awareness in those few hours before bedtime of just starting to decelerate, meditate, read a book with a dim light, you know, do something where you can just really get in touch with yourself and allow things to decline. And find some technology, track your sleep, understand what's going on, and make changes.
Awesome. I love all of that.
I have an airway sleep specialist on my team who I've learned enormous things from. We do all this work for people, and even just your jaw joint, which is super powerful and strong joint in your body. And the mechanics of sleep is fascinating to me. And a lot of people have airway issues. Mm-hmm. They could do all this great setup stuff ahead of time, circadian rhythm, A+. If their mechanics for breathing are off, it affects their sleep quality.
Yeah, which makes sense. Like I just think of certain times of year, my allergies, when I'm more stuffy because of allergies, I definitely do not feel as rested in the morning.
Yeah.
Than during the times of year I'm breathing better. So definitely makes sense there. Question for you on circadian rhythms, and something I've always wondered, because like I totally understand the like ultimately wake up with the sun, go to bed with the sun going down. But when like say in the winter it doesn't get light until like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, it gets dark at like 5 o'clock. And then in the summer, it's like complete opposite, at least here for us, it's like sun's coming up at 4:30 in the morning and it's going down at 9. Like, how do we function in our normal schedules around that circadian rhythm when it's so different in our times?
I hear you. In the morning, I tell people, well, again, assuming kind of a normal daylight sunset scenario, get out in the sun for 5 minutes. Don't look directly at the sun, but allow indirect light into your eyes. That's kind of that wake up call. That's the big signal that tells your body, oh, it's daytime, right? Now, what is it, like Alaska? It stays light till 10 at night or something or other?
During a certain time of year, yeah.
Right. So we can control our environment, right? You know, we can dim lights, we can close blinds. So I think it's just trying to emulate or replicate rather the daytime mode and the nighttime mode when it's that time.
Okay.
Think about it like a light switch, right? And understand that when you flip that switch to on, your body's going to function in its AM daytime mode. And if you're trying to do PM functions in the AM mode or vice versa, then you're creating some confusion. Our bodies love consistency. You know, an hour swing. Oh, when it stays light, I go to bed a little bit later. That's fine. When it gets dark early, I go to bed a little earlier. That's fine. You know, that's just it, as long as there's some consistency in that, your bedtime should be within an hour. I normally go to bed at 9:30. Sometimes I go to bed at 10:30. That's all good.
Awesome. I just go to bed when the sun's still up because I have no shame.
Nice.
Want to shift gears a little bit. I know you mentioned mindset is a huge portion that you work on. I would love to dive into some of that a little bit. When obviously mindset can go a ton of different directions. What sort of things are you focused on when you're working with people on mindset related things?
Fear, trauma, beliefs, and asking people to get out of their head. Get out of your head. We create a lot of our own trauma, drama, and stress. I know it's a stressful world out there. I get it. We can't dig a hole and climb into it. But we are in control of how we interpret the information we receive, right?
Mhm.
And for me, it's about creating an awareness of being an observer rather than being in it, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, we got to talk about COVID, right? That was is, I don't know, everyone's got their own perspective. It could have been perceived as a horrible, scary situation. And I have enormous respect for people who lost a loved one, a friend, who were sick, who had problems during that time period. And that's a whole nother conversation. It's about trying to be the master of your own thoughts, right? And observing things at a little bit of an arm's length distance. And also, like, if you said something to me that was insulting, it hurt my feelings, I have two choices. I could be angry and say you're a horrible person, and then I'm going to have all that drama. Or I could say, gee, I wonder why that statement was made. Is there something upsetting? Is there something of concern? Is that other person, reliving something that has triggered them? I lean into compassion and acceptance and understanding and finding my own sense of strength and security. And I try and share those tools with people. And I think a lot of it stems from self-worth and validation, right? People very much want this external. This is why social media has become so, significant. People want that external validation. Mm-hmm. And it creates a dependency on outside stimulus. And then we just that's the only thing we have. And then our own being becomes weak, right? Mm-hmm. So I tell people you need to gain some core strength, not in your abdomen, but in the core of your being, right? And this is where a practice of self-mastery comes in. And I know this is kind of out there. If you can meditate, if you journal, if you have a therapist, if you have a friend, if you have an accountability group, there's so many ways for you to strengthen your own being so that the factors outside of that are not hitting you as hard. It's a definition of resilience, right? So mindset for me starts from within. And when you can be whole and full and abundant and having all 8 cylinders firing with all the power that you have, it's so much easier to deal with external variables that could stress you out, that could be fearful, that make you angry. Whatever, the brain wants to control everything. I ask people to focus more in their heart and see how do you feel and have compassion for others.
That's awesome. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that I've done myself, figuring out how to respond versus react to situations and really kind of reading into things more, spending more time with myself. And it's hard work to kind of make that switch and make those changes and become that more aware, attentive person and really kind of think about what's going on versus what you're perceiving is going on.
I agree 1,000%. And everybody has their own circumstance, their own environment, their own family dynamic. And it's just, what you think and believe, whether it's right or wrong, it's right. Right? The mind and the body talk to each other. And if your brain says this is fearful, your body goes into fear mode. When your body goes into fear mode, the brain goes, oh crap, we're in fear mode. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I'm not saying that in the in the presence of danger, you should just be, smelling flowers. Obviously, there's reality. And I'm offering you input on in a perfect world scenario. And we all have to find that level of where we can be in those circumstances. And rather than just cramming it in the drawer, let's pull them out and deal with each one of them so we're not carrying it around all day long. Right? We have this bucket full of anger and stressors and fears and this and that. And it doesn't take a lot for the water to tip over and spill out. If we can drain that bucket a little bit and clear some of these negative factors about mindset, then it makes it, you have a lot more bandwidth to address a short-term situation that exists.
When talking about fears, stressors, things like that, I know it's kind of as a human's normal bias to be cautious and fearful of change, uncertainty, not wanting to try new things, not wanting to just any change. It's, we kind of view it as unsafe. How do you work with people to start overcoming that and being okay saying they're trying new things, going for that new job or whatever it is?
Break it down into small pieces. If we've got a dozen things spinning around, it's too big. It's too big to try and tackle all of those. So and again, I have health coaches, I have performance coaches, I have people on my team with so many initials after their name. It's incredible. And I'm beyond grateful to have this collaboration of people that work with me. And so we kind of match make a client to the right team of people based on where they are. We do a pretty extensive intake and assessment process with any new client that comes on board, even a corporation. We want to understand their culture, their organizational structure, and how they do stuff. And then we start picking it apart. And for me, there's two sides of the coin. Let's build up the things that are going well to make it even stronger. And let's take those things that aren't going well and let's chip away at them one at a time. In a food strategy, I will have someone write down 5 things that they're doing well with food and 5 things that they're not doing well with food. And we stick it on the fridge. And I'm like, pick one from each column. And for a week, you're going to focus on improving the good one and decreasing the bad one. And after a while, you've made 10 changes, incremental changes in your eating strategy, and you're feeling better and the world looks different. The same is true with your mindset, with your brain, with your emotions, with how you're presenting yourself. Let's pick the low-hanging fruit. Let's pick the things that might be the easiest to solve and cross off, not the biggie. Let's not talk about the biggie yet. A lot of people go after the big one first. I go after the small ones first. Boom, done, boom, done, boom, done. Now it doesn't look so bad. And with those 3 things done, you feel better. It's about momentum.
Okay.
And inertia. Right?
Yeah.
So that's how I approach it. That's how I encourage people to approach it. I like lists. Write it down. I put everything down on paper or in my computer because I don't want to carry it around in my brain. What am I doing next week? I have no idea. I don't want to have to keep thinking about it. I trust my system. It's in my calendar. I have to remember to tell someone something. I'm not going to carry that around all day. I'm going to write it down. I have this little cheat sheet that I could take every day, lasts me a few days. And if I'm in the middle, rather than going in the computer, I just write it down. And then in the morning, I look and see what did I write down and where does it belong on my calendar, on my schedule, on my to-do list. Free up your brain.
You sound like me. Between my dry erase board right next to me and my phone, I put a ton of reminders in all the time. And same thing. I'm like, I don't want it in my head.
Yeah, no kidding.
One last thing I do want to talk about today is postures, movements, kind of daily habits in that sense. How does that really impact how we feel, how we live, how we thrive?
Posture. Wow. Posture is a great one. Unfortunately, we're seeing a rapid decline in all demographics in good posture. And whether it's sitting in a chair, whether it's looking at your technology, whether it's just being tired, we're seeing a decline. I love people watching. I love seeing what's going on. My kids call me the posture police. Posture has a couple different things. When we stand up tall, when we're open and feeling expansive, our energy shares that image, right?
Mm-hmm.
I tell executives, you have two interviewers walking in the door. One guy comes in, he hands you his resume, he sits in the chair and he's all crouched in, his shoulders are rounded, and he barely looks up at you, and it looks like he's been up for 3 days, versus a guy who comes in, greets you, very strong, sits upright, eye contact, positive, glowing energy, with the exact same resume. Who are you going to hire? Duh, we know the answer. People, body language is 90 some odd % of our communication. So as we relate to ourselves in the mirror and as we relate to the world, our posture is an amazing indicator of our state of being, number one. Number two, and my favorite, is that the brain controls everything that happens within our body through our nervous system, right? Mm-hmm. The brain tells the organ, the brain tells them every movement we do, the brain is telling us to do these things. I grew up in the construction industry, so I understand wiring and electrical and all that kind of stuff. So if you think about your spine as being like an electrical pipe, and there's 1,000 wires in that pipe, right? Those wires go from the back of the brain to every operating function of your body. If that pipe is tweaked, if it's bent in a way that it wasn't designed, we have a short in the system. We've got the wiring is not solid. And so the other interesting fact is that 93% of our nervous system operates without pain sensors attached to it. Have you ever had someone say to me, my kidney feels like it's not functioning the way it's supposed to? I feel pain in my kidney. Now, in some cases, an extreme case, that happens. But in our day-to-day life, if you're a healthy person, we don't think about that. Mm-hmm. You know, if we get burned, if we get poked, we know that our skin has pain sensors in it. But there's so much that goes on within the body that can be malfunctioning, and we don't know about it. Mm-hmm. And it's because the nervous system the brain isn't getting the right instructions to that part of the body. I have a couple of chiropractors that are really good friends of mine. I go to both of them for regular adjustments. They're able to get rid of chronic bedwetting in young kids through spinal adjustments. They're able to restore digestive irregularities through a spinal adjustment. So the nervous system, optimizing your nervous system so that that computer, the brain, the most powerful computer ever created, can give perfect information to every part of your body. And when we are, and then the good and the bad news is that the spine was kind of designed with zero tolerance. So if you have rounded shoulders, if you have forward head, if your pelvis isn't lined up properly, you have a short. Even if it's just not creating pain in your body because you don't feel that part of it. But the nervous system is definitely sensitive to posture and how the spine is aligned.
Awesome. Great information there.
Thanks.
Super helpful. Larry, you shared some awesome information today. If someone wants to ask more questions, just wants to find out more about you and your company, where can they find you?
Great. Thank you for that. GenesisPerformance.net is our website. You can find all of our socials through the website. If you hit the contact us page in the website, it comes directly to me. I respond to all of them. I welcome any inquiries, conversations. I'm here to help elevate people and to inspire them. Money is a necessary evil, but that's not my primary focus. My primary focus is doing and caring and supporting others. And so I end up doing a lot of work with people just because it's the right thing to do. And I like to pay forward my knowledge and the gifts that I've received thus far in my life. And I welcome any inquiries and questions that they might have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Larry, for your time. This is a great conversation.
And I thank you for your platform and for inviting me on. You hit on questions that are near and dear to me. I'm sure you can feel my passion and my getting in the weeds and geeking out a little bit on some of these things. So forgive me for that. I always try to translate things into just life and reality, but there's so much to understand about the human body and how we navigate these challenging times. And I appreciate it. And I look forward to a continued dialogue with you.
Awesome. Thank you.